try something new. Let's try something new. This is gonna be fun.
Sure. We're still, we're gonna pretend.
Every single time. I don't know if have you ever thought about this? I was thinking about this the other day. This is a good way to intro the show. Good job, Nathan. But have you noticed, like, if you listen to the theme song to the show enough times, that you start, like, thinking up lyrics to the theme song?
No, I haven't noticed that.
No, because I've started thinking about it too. Like, when they get to that bridge, it's like, if you like throwing pebbles too, we'll throw them all with you. Gonna save the world from Captain Planet. I don't know why I want to save the world from Captain Planet, but that's what I always think about. And that low part is explaining just the whole plot line of Captain Planet.
You're gonna have to figure out. We're gonna have to have a lyric contest for it.
Yeah. Bonus points if you can make it relate to Captain Planet.
Yeah.
or like the Ninja Turtles or something. There should be a thematic thing to that. I don't know what it would be, but
well, it is boss fight music, so
exactly. If maybe it could be about Robotnik, I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. I am not Alex.
He is definitely not Alex, and I am apparently not Nathan. That's what we're doing today.
That's apparently
not being each other.
We're not being each other. Maybe we should try being each other for a little while. That would be a Freaky Friday situation. No,
that'd be a bad Friday.
That would be a fried Friday. We're not going to do that. Anyway, welcome to Total Pebble Knockdown. It's a show that we do. Yep.
It includes cats now.
It's a show that we do, and occasionally it includes cats. So there's that. We're still trying to figure out branding for the show, so don't worry too much about it.
We need to make a cat toy that's just a TPK dice.
TPK dice, small choking hazard for your cat. Let's just
perfect.
Make it happen. Anyway, so how goes your TPKing over there?
Well, in today's news, I actually have about 7 people who are interested in actually playing like D&D.
Oh.
Locally.
Oh, really? Like,
yeah.
Like you can see them for realsies?
Yeah, I can see them. I could touch them if we weren't supposed to be socially distancing still.
Right.
Several co-workers, and then Crave and one of my co-workers' partners as well.
Oh, very nice. Well, you can keep the hazmat suits on.
Yeah, keep the mask, keep the hazmat suit, but I've got a bunch of people. The tricky part here is that all but I think 2 of us work night shift.
Oh.
Being Crave and the other one's partner.
Yeah.
So we would need to figure out, and not all of us have the same days off, so we'll need to figure out the place, the time, and the days.
Got it.
That if we're gonna do it, so it either needs to be before we go to work at night, or it needs to be after we get home from work. But then it would have to be on a weekend if it's after we get home from work.
Got it.
Because, for instance, Crave works Monday to Friday, so it would need to be a Saturday or Sunday.
Sure.
Which doesn't necessarily work well for me because I've got my kid on the weekends. And then before work, it means we have to all get up before work, which is after work for people that work during the normal hours of society functioning.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it. But yeah, it's a bunch of people who would actually be interested in playing, which is really cool.
Oh, good.
So maybe we can figure out some logistics, and I can actually play in a game or run a game for the first time in like 4 years.
That's like 7 more people's PCs that you can kill.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't saying I was gonna DM, but
you'll still find a way.
But I'll kill my party members. It's fine.
You can do it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, otherwise, what's the point in playing?
Yeah. I have a character idea for if I'm a player. Okay. I would like to make I think I would like to make a rogue who is non-binary.
Okay.
Presents as whichever gender they feel like at the time, because
Oh,
that's
okay.
something you can do. But have them proficient in disguise kits
Yep.
so that they can be like, not because they're disguising who they are, but like maybe I want to seem like tough and like one of the boys. I could do that. Or maybe I want to interact with the shopkeepers and flirt with them to get a discount. I can do that. It doesn't matter. It depends who you're dealing with.
Oh, I gotcha, yeah. Now, do you know what, do you want to be like a dwarf? Do you want to be an elf? What do you want to do?
Oh, if they're gonna be a non-binary character, probably a half elf or an elf.
That kind of makes sense, okay, yeah.
Because you can't tell anyways.
Fair enough, yeah. I saw one thing on, was it Instagram or something? It was like, this is how you become, like, invincible, and they were talking about doing, like, a monk dwarf, where you can, like, do dwarven fortitude and stuff, and they were saying that if you just combine a couple different feats with that kind of character, you can use a key point to just do a dodge action, and then, like, regenerate, like, 1d8 plus your con score health on your turn.
Yeah, but why would you want to optimize characters so much that you can't be taken away with?
Maybe you suck at playing, and like me. That could be it.
One of the other guys that works with me was like, yeah, I made like a bugbear rogue with a spear or like a halberd or something like that who does like 1d8 plus 7 or 1d10 plus 7 damage with advantage. And I'm like, why are you over optimizing your characters so much? Like, I think it's really fun to have unoptimized characters a lot of ways, because there's so much more fun in storytelling when you've got flaws and don't just like, I'm overpowered, I broke the game. It's like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
All that does is make your DM go,
Yeah. That was Rembrandt was not optimized for what he was doing
Yeah.
at
they're
all.
fun. They're really fun. Bo's character, Shump, the half-orc bard, was super unoptimized as a bard. He was a terrible bard.
Yep.
I think he had like an 11 or 12 charisma, I think. But
Perfect.
he had like a 17 strength.
Yeah. No, I was a monk that had a 9 dexterity.
Perfect.
So,
You don't need it.
but it made me want to actually play a monk character. I had another idea for a monk, and she was going to be an Aarakocra Sunsoul monk, because I love the idea of playing a Firebird, and I was like, no, that character, Valkyrie, I was going to really optimize her. She was going to be very optimized. I like the idea I can fly up in the air and then start shooting bolts of fire and sunlight down on people. Be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what's new with Nathan?
What's new with Nathan? Nothing. Let's get into the episode. Let's get into
Nothing.
the episode.
Bye.
let's get into the episode. All right. So Alex, first thing up on the weekly muse, I guess this is.
Sure, we can figure that out at the end of the segment.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Just assume that there's a few things that we talk about on episodes, and they're categorized in some way that we will figure out at a later date. On this particular segment, though, there's a new version of Myst that recently came out in August, and it is referred to by Cyan as a reimagining of the original game. For those of you who are not familiar with the original version of Myst, it was a very classic, famous video game that was about puzzles on this island, and it was more of a point-and-click adventure title, and what they've essentially done is gone back, changed all the graphical elements around, so it's been completely updated and allowed you to free roam around the map. And Alex, you played a little bit of Myst when it came out, right?
I played the original Myst, and I also do have the real Myst that came out for, I think, for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
Which I think now they're on 25, which is why they did this reimagining.
Yeah, sounds right.
But yeah, I played the original point-and-click version of Myst. And that was way fun back in 1998.
Yeah, it sure was. I think my parents got it for me, and we were playing it. We were playing it back on like the old Apple, that were the big gray boxes, if you remember those. And I remember just like Mom and I were thinking to ourselves like it would be really cool to play together and try and do all of that stuff. And we had to get the hint book because it was just it was like I don't even know where to start with this thing.
Yeah, I like that the manual for Myst, which kind of told you about it. It didn't tell you how to play the game at all, except that there's like if you really need a hint, there's one on the back, and it was just this really vague hint. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, check this. And that's all we're gonna tell you.
Right. And it was before the time where like the internet was as big as it was today, so it's not like you could just go online and find a bunch of hint books unless they were like in a GeoCities page or something.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So you were kind of left to your own devices, and I think we figured out a few different things, but I was just kind of totally lost by the whole prospect of it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested, though, to play the new version, because I think one of the big things I had a problem with was those static frames that they did in the whole framing device of doing that point-and-click adventure felt very limiting to me, being able to figure out how to interact with the environment, and I didn't really feel like engaged with it in that way, and being able to free roam helps with that.
Yeah, that's a factor of the time it was made. 98 wasn't really, or 96 I think maybe even, wasn't really super like, you couldn't roam around in games like that back then.
Yeah.
So much.
No. Oh, 93.
93, sorry. I was like, it's like as old as Half-Life, but I mean...
We're coming up on 30 years.
Oh, jeez. To create the game they did, the worlds they did, they couldn't have used a 3D game engine.
No.
With the technology back then.
No.
It would have been terrible.
Right.
The game would have taken up 16 discs.
Yeah. I think as it stood, there was at least 2.
Probably.
And when they came out with Riven just a little ways after that, which was the sequel, I know that there was at least 2 discs, and I think there were more than that.
Yeah.
Very ambitious. But yeah, no, all the games at that time, a lot of them were in static frame, and a lot of them were point and clicks, you know, the like Legend of Monkey Island and all of those. And yeah, a lot of it was technical limitations. They just couldn't do full rendered 3D environments.
Right.
And that made me start thinking about, though, we've seen a few, well, we've actually seen a lot, we'll talk about that in a minute, different franchises that have been updated and brought into the modern day, and I was just kind of wondering why you think that has suddenly seen such a resurgence, because we're getting a lot of them.
Well, I think a lot of the reason for that actually comes from a lot of these older games from the early 2000s and the late 90s, and apparently early 90s in the case of Myst. The technical limitations of those times and the technical abilities now are so different that people can take games like Myst, or it's just a point and click with a great story that you could piece together and a great just way to tell that story. You can take that and then go, hey, we've taken and redone this entire game from the ground up in the case of this new reimagined version of Myst with technology that we never could have done it with in the beginning. Sure. It's like you can have full 3D and VR supported games now, where before it was like point and click. It's like, I think a lot of it is from the nostalgia aspect of people going, yeah, I grew up with these games, and then being like, I can see it remastered into like today's tech.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's great.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's a lot of it. Is that nostalgia? Like even with remastering movies and stuff, and just coming up with new versions of older like movies and stuff as well. Everything's kind of going through a phase of like, you know, we're in our 30s now, you and I. So that stuff is all from our childhood at this point, and it's like, companies are like, you know, it'd be great taking the things from your childhood and making it so it's accessible for you now.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like, yes.
Yeah, I kept thinking about this, like, it feels like our generation are like cultural curators. We've like saw all of like the cultural milestones of the past, and so we're curating and updating all of it in the modern day with what we have now. But that can occasionally work to its benefit, sometimes against it. The cynical part of me says that we're seeing so many of them because people have run out of ideas, and so
that's also a thing. Although I will give games like Myst a pass.
Yeah.
For this, because Cyan, it's still making games.
Yes.
They haven't run out of ideas. They're still making really crazy and expansive worlds. I have Abduction that I got on Epic when it was free, and I haven't played much, but it is a successor to the Myst franchise in the way that it is still an exploration mystery type game. Figure out what's going on, figure out how to do everything. It doesn't really tell you a lot. So eventually I might get into that to play it more.
Sure.
But, they're still making games 30 years later. So, like, an anniversary edition of game that's, like, 25, 30 years old, I would give it a pass for coming up with being a new remastered or reimagined version of it.
Oh yeah, no, I can understand that. Especially the other thing, too, is being able to see the technology, even if they haven't done a necessarily remaster, but I've noticed that it's kind of nice to be able to go back and play a game that came out 20 years ago and play it on modern hardware, because the difference in being able to do your frame rate and your loads times and everything is just like night and day. When I started doing streaming, I went back and I played Deus Ex, and I realized that we've gone so far, because it came out in 2000.
Yeah.
And we have gone so far that if you play the basic game Deus Ex, it does not run properly on modern hardware.
No, a lot of games don't run properly from that age.
No, it is near unplayable because you run so fast, you can't stop. You can't even get the button pressing down because it's running at like 300 frames or something a sec. And there was so many times I just tried the training just to see how it was. The lighting was terrible, and also like the places where people were supposed to talk just like cut off 1 second afterward. You couldn't defuse bombs because like a half a second after you got up to the bomb, it exploded in your face.
Yeah, because a lot of that was because the frame rates back then, for instance, were very limiting to the gameplay. So when suddenly you're like, yeah, max frame rate, 400 FPS, it's like, oh, well, if we count things that happen in frames, then suddenly it's like, you've got a second, deal with it.
Right, exactly. So what they actually had to do with that particular game is they actually made a whole community actually made a different mod that was the revision mod. And it allowed you to play it correctly on modern hardware and adapted it with a lot of other things that you get in later. So we got to a point where I used to use it to determine how good my hardware was by how long the load screens were, to the point where, oh my god, it runs so fast, I have to actually get a mod so that it doesn't like absolutely become unplayable. So it's kind of amazing in that respect too. But I should actually probably do Myst on stream. We'll have to think about doing that.
It may be from before this came out.
Now I have to figure. Now I have to. Man, time is
dates are weird.
Time is a flat circle, folks. It's you might be hearing this from the past to the future. Okay, so next thing up on our magical list of topics in the segment. I'll put that in later. Have you ever seen people do this with their mouth like they...
No.
Okay.
No. Are we done talking about Myst?
I don't know. Are we?
Is that what happens? You're like, now?
And now? Actually, I didn't have anything else for Myst, but did you have anything else for that?
That was just such an abrupt ending.
Sorry. I'm not good at segues. I can't ride a segue. Speaking of segues, this is our segue into the next segment. Now you see why I'm not good at segues.
I feel like you could have been like, so from talking about why, Myst being remastered or reimagined, we wanted to move on to a very similar but different topic.
Well, see, I don't have to do that because you just did that now.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for the segue. I'll take it. Yes, Alex, you're absolutely right. we do want to talk about that. Specifically, there are a few concepts that go around old games when they get updated. There are remakes, there are remasters, and there are reboots. Those are usually the three terms. Do you want to try and explain what the differences are? Maybe we can work together on this.
No, I don't want to. No, so yeah, I had told you I was interested because there's a lot of reboots, remasters, reimaginings, all those things coming, especially lately, as we just discussed on the previous segment. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Link in the description below.
If I'm smart.
Yeah, if you're smart.
I don't think I am.
No. But yeah, there's a lot of different terms that go around for these things, and there's a ton of games that have been coming out recently in the last few years that are either a remaster of an old game or a reboot to a game, such as the DMC Devil May Cry was like kind of a soft reboot for the series, which didn't necessarily... I don't even want to get into that one, really. But then there's the remasters, or whatever they call them, in the case of, like, Kingdoms of Amalur, Re-Reckoning, Diablo Resurrected, StarCraft 2, whatever the hell they called that.
That one?
Or, sorry, StarCraft 1, whatever they called it, Remaster, Warcraft Reforged, and we're not even gonna get into how much we are not happy with Blizzard Activision currently, but as examples...
Yeah.
Many reasons, but there's a ton of those games that have been coming out recently. So, I think a remaster, as we just kind of went over with a little bit of Myst, a remaster is taking a game and kind of... It's not the reimagining they did with Myst. I don't think a remaster is taking a game and upgrading either the hardware capabilities or the graphics, but not really kind of touching any of the gameplay elements, I feel like.
Yeah, what you usually see with remasters, it's usually prefaced with, like, HD remasters.
Yeah.
And what they typically... That's probably the softest version of the upgrading process, because it's usually, like, a lot of up-resing from the original, or placing it on the next console or the newer hardware.
Right.
So that it can run on that. They don't usually touch any of the assets.
Right.
Or do any of the user interface upgrades or anything like that.
Or in the case of Skyrim, they don't touch anything but the textures.
Yeah, they touch. Yeah, we get some god rays. But actually, when we get into that part, that even starts to fall a little bit more into some upgrade territory. That's more than that. Well, those are special editions. Those are Those
it's really just a remaster.
Yeah, or a modification to the original game.
Or you download it for free on the Nexus mod store and get a 4K resolution texture pack for Skyrim.
There you go. Yeah.
For free.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah.
I actually have the 2K for Fallout and Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just makes everything look nicer.
Oh, sure. Oh, Gearbox actually did something similar with the Borderlands. I think if you have, like, the Borderlands, like the Handsome Collection or the original one.
Oh, the GOTY edition?
Yeah, the game. They actually had, like, 4K packs that you could download if you have the new hardware, so that you can play it all in native. But so remasters, the softest version of this, I would say that remakes are probably the next step up.
Right.
That's really where we get into literally changing assets themselves, doing complete new remodels of all of the textures, the character designs, if you had sprites originally, turning them into 3D models, differences in how the gameplay works too, trying to make it more user-friendly, tightening the controls, stuff like that. But the game itself is still essentially the same.
Right, you're telling the same story, you're doing the same type of stuff in the game, but you're taking either the technical limitations from before away. Like if you do a remake of Deus Ex, for instance, it would be, hey, here's the original game, except in today's tech, remade, not just remastered to look nicer. It will play nicer.
Right.
In the instance of our first topic, when we talked about Myst, I believe I would call the real Myst that they came out with a remaster.
Okay.
because it upscaled everything graphics wise, but it made everything also a lot smoother for playing. But it also gave you both the original point and click styles that you could do, but it also gave you could do the fully explorable WSAD free roam around as well, which you could not do it all in the beginning. So it's more than just all the upgrade to textures and files and images and everything, because they had to make it so you could now walk around. So it gave the gameplay a whole different depth of being able to play the game and explore the game.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I can see what you're saying, where that feels a little bit more like a remaster than a remake. Just because in remakes, I feel like there's a lot more asset changes. And I suppose the newer version of Myst that they just came out with is more along that line, because they actually did go in and modernize so many of the actual assets themselves.
Yeah.
So, and then we have reboots, which is
like DMC Devil May Cry.
like DMC Devil May Cry. That's a whole different carton of eggs.
Yeah. That is Ghostbusters from whenever that came out in 2013. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
That is when you that is the actual reimagining the entire game to tell a different story or a different point of view from the story, or to tell the same story in a different way. Or I don't know, for games how many reboots we typically get. God of War, the newest one, I want to say, was kind of a reboot to this franchise.
Tomb Raider, when they started the Survivor series, that was Lara's story from the beginning, actually from before the original game. So that was a completely different story, but like just taking that in a whole different direction. Yeah, there's been a few. There's some people that might argue. I don't know if they would necessarily argue that, but I'm thinking like with Legend of Zelda, it's kind of a different thing altogether, because I think that they all fit into the same timeline, so that it's not necessarily Link rebooting.
There's a game theory about that.
Maybe that's too much to get into.
The extended there's an extended Zelda timeline.
Yeah, that's it. There's a deep in the weeds for that. Oh,
there is.
I would say maybe like Metroid Prime, when that came out, I feel like you could have made the case for that was a reboot of the series.
Sure. Yeah, but typically the reboots is either taking an old franchise that kind of died off a little bit or hasn't seen anything in a while, and you're kind of rebooting it to like, oh hey, this is still relevant, you know, kind of like Duke Nukem. Which one was the Duke Nukem that just came out forever? A couple years back that Gearbox finally did after 12 years?
Yeah. I think it was more like 14, and
whatever it was too long.
It and yet not long enough at the same time.
Yes, not long enough. Or for instance, we could call Psychonauts 2 after 13 years?
16
years. Yeah. We could call Psychonauts 2, even though it's a direct sequel to the game, I would also classify it as a reboot to that franchise.
Possibly.
Because it was kind of like, you know, it hasn't been seen, they've done nothing with it for years. People were like, you should make a sequel. And they're like, all right, well, here's a sequel. And it's like, all right, now people are interested in this game again.
Right.
So a reboot can do that a lot of times, too.
Right. See, usually when I think about reboots, though, I think they're, like, going back and telling, like, the origin story again, or they're, like, reintroducing the character. So I kind of now see what you're saying about 2, because I don't think anybody really remember anything about what Raz or any of the characters did.
and then in the case of the new God of War game that came out, it would have been God of War 4. Right. Well, aside from, like, Chains of Olympus or whatever on the PSP they had, we don't count that.
We don't talk about
mainline games. Yeah. But, like, that hadn't had a game come out in years for that series.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's not telling a story that comes before Kratos was, you know, the God of War, or his adventures before murdering his wife and child. At the beginning of the first God of War game, if you never played it, spoilers.
If you didn't play the first hour of the first God of War.
Yeah. Like, it didn't tell that story of him when he was a soldier in the army, or a general in the army, whatever the hell he was. This is telling a story after 3. It's a continuation of years later.
Sure.
So I would still call that kind of reboot because it's, again, the reintroduction to the series from a point of it hasn't been out in a while.
Sure.
DMC Devil May Cry, because that is the actual title of that game.
Yes.
As I've talked about on the old show, I was like, it's in the timeline of events, it fits as the precursor to the first chronological game in that series, which is Devil May Cry 3. Was technically like the first timeline for that mainline games, but this one would have come before that because it tells like the origin story of Dante, kind of.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Not that they went anywhere with the reboot. They went reboot and then a totally different game with DMC like 5.
Yeah.
So
I played
who knows?
5. 5 was good. But
I have it on my wish list. I haven't played it yet.
Well, knowing how you feel about DMC, you'll probably prefer 5. But it does get me to think about like long-running series though too. And the thing that just popped in my head was about Assassin's Creed. That's gone through a few different iterations, a lot of them. But I would say that if we were looking at the point where the series really rebooted, it was probably with Origins.
Oh yeah.
Because they completely changed over how the combat works, how the open world areas work. They wanted to do a very big overhaul of the series. In fact, they actually took a separate year off. Ubisoft took another year off just to try and fix that after the a couple kind of disasters that they had before that. Unity! But besides Unity, and then no one played Syndicate, unfortunately, even though that was really good, because Unity had been such a tire fire. And so then they came back with Origins, and they said, well, we're completely changing over the combat, and we're also taking this back to the very beginning of the Brotherhood as we know it. And we're going to tell, essentially, the origin story of the Assassin's Brotherhood, the Brotherhood of Assassins. New characters in the modern day as well, like all of the stuff with Desmond was gone. They took it with Layla, was the new character, whole new storyline there, but still with some of the characters and the lore of the original games. So that's really where they probably changed over with the reboot. So you can do it with long-running series as well. Theoretically, if Beyond Good and Evil, the next one came out, it would be a true reboot because no one... It's all different characters as far as I can tell. But
yeah,
if you ever you're not going to get it. Anyway. But I was curious, now that we've actually explained what they all are.
Yeah, thanks for the intro to the episode. Now we can get into Meet This podcast.
We can actually talk about stuff. I was wondering if you had some particular titles that would fall into these categories that you might actually recommend, and if
that I would recommend. That one's hard.
That you would highlight or recommend.
See, I was hoping. All right, we can do a thing real quick. I was hoping we could actually talk about like. Fuck. We could talk about fuck. No, I wanted to actually talk about how remasters aren't always fantastic sometimes. Like sometimes they're okay, but sometimes I would like to give an example of a remaster currently.
Okay.
And this is Diablo 2 Resurrected.
Great.
Did you play in the beta weekend at all?
I only play in alphas. No, I didn't get to play the beta. So
Blizzard had a open beta weekend for free for Diablo 2 Resurrected a couple weeks back. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this because I want to see if the game has anything I'm interested in buying or purchasing or torrenting legally. So I was like, all right, it's free. I'm going to download it. I'm going to play it for this weekend and see if I like it, if I want to even throw any money at this or not. Or whatever. It is perfectly acceptable to pirate Blizzard games currently. What? Did I say that? No. We do not advertise piracy.
We don't give
Yar.
legal advice. Please don't ask us to do We don't provide legal counsel.
So
Yeah.
Diablo 2 Remastered is taking all the graphics. Resurrected is
beyond
Diablo
that.
2
Yeah.
in all its glory. All the graphics are absolutely great. It looks amazing, and it's very true to being Diablo 2.
Excellent.
Also, the 5s and 6s are now discernible text from each other.
Wow. Okay. What we were all looking forward to finally got.
Because you couldn't tell what they were.
Yeah.
So everything looks way nicer. You know, I will say it looks fantastic, and it supports 4K resolution, and it has that gimmicky thing that a lot of these games, like even the Command & Conquer Red Alert remaster has, which you can swap between the original graphics of the game and then the 2 or 4K HD version of the game
Oh yeah.
on the fly, and be like, oh yeah, I want to see what this looks like there, and you can swap it back, and it's like, whoa, this is so cool.
Oh yeah.
It's gimmicky because it's like, yeah, I can play it looking like that if I want to, but why?
Right. Right.
Like, it doesn't. It looks so terrible. So first of all, Diablo 2 graphics don't look great when upscaled to a 4K resolution at all. When it's the old game graphics,
Yeah.
it looks terrible. It's like, oh, I can't believe I played the game looking like this back in '98. But so for all the glory of the game looking better
Yeah.
as a remaster, they didn't really touch anything else gameplay wise,
No. No.
which honestly disappointed me because I was like, Diablo 2 was a fantastic game.
Oh, yeah.
You and I have probably both sunk hundreds of hours to that over the
Easily.
years,
Yeah.
when it was still a thing.
Mhm.
And like, I feel like there are just a few tweaks they could have made to make quality of life so much better. Like with the mouse, with the hitboxes on monsters, being able to hit them without like misclicking slightly and not even trying to hit them at all.
Yeah.
The little pawns in Act 1 outside of Tristram, where you Sanctuary, sorry.
Sanctuary.
Where you
Right.
the little ponds there in the water they added so you can see your reflections in them, which is cool. But you
Yeah.
can't walk over them. You can't walk through those. They just present an unpassable terrain.
Mhm.
I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you not just make it so you can walk through that?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't even game breaking. It's quality of life to make this game go from you conserving space on a hard drive before, I'm sure is the reason why, to like making it so that this game feels so much better to play.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about remasters. It's fine to make things look better, but if it doesn't feel better to play,
Mhm.
I don't really see the point. Unless you're a huge nostalgia fan and want to feel, oh yeah, this feels like a game from '98, but looks like a game from 2021.
Yeah. It's yeah, I know what you're talking about. It feels like, I wasn't a huge fan of Diablo 3 compared to Diablo 2 just because I
see,
like Diablo
thing.
2. Yeah.
Playing the remaster of Diablo 2, I now wish they'd taken the game engine from Diablo 3
I was just going to say. Yeah.
and taken it to create the overhauled version remastered of Diablo 2
Mhm.
with a much more better pacing and more in-depth and rich environment. Like, that would have been like, screw the resurrected Diablo 2. Make Diablo 2 reimagined.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take it and throw it in there into the Diablo 3 engine with all the overhaul for the same system of Diablo 2 with all the trees and the perks, the skill tree and the items and all that stuff from Diablo 2. Throw it in Diablo 3 and just make that a thing.
Yeah.
And I've been like, here's my fucking wallet, Blizzard. I don't care what's going on with you right now. I will give you the money because
Give you
Diablo
money for
3
that. Yeah.
Diablo 3 functionally was great, but it got repetitive because there are only so many options for your builds. You can do whatever you want with all the skills and the runes, but I would have preferred the skill system from Diablo 2.
Oh yeah, with the different skill trees. Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
prefer
with
that.
the masteries and all that. So if they had taken Diablo 2 and thrown it into Diablo 3 and given you all the stuff from Diablo 2, but in a better package, I've been like, here's my wallet.
Yeah.
I will play the shit out of this game for hundreds of hours.
Oh, yeah. And it kind of makes you... I wonder if anyone's tried to do... This is interesting. I gotta look this up. I'm wondering if anyone's tried to do a mod for Diablo 3 that just reimagines Diablo 2 using the 3 engine.
I don't know if they can... I don't know how easy that is for people to do. I don't know if Blizzard really lets people mod their games that much these days.
I'm guessing probably not.
Since it's all DRM, but if anyone's got that or knows about that, let me know, and I want that suddenly.
Yeah, I do. Or, hey, just make Diablo 2 in Skyrim. Everybody makes a mod for Skyrim.
Perfect. Everybody wins.
Everybody
I mean,
wins.
honestly, you could probably do that easier.
Yeah, you probably could do it far easier than that.
Yeah, so as we're talking about remasters and reboots and stuff like that, that's the remaster. Like, if you really were a fan of Diablo 2 and you want the Diablo 2 experience in 4K graphics, like, maybe it's for you. But if you don't really want a game that still feels like you're playing in 1998, you're not going to enjoy this.
Right. It gets me thinking about a couple examples that kind of jump off of that. The first one is when they did the Halo Anniversary. That functionally is exactly the same, but they did change some of the graphics around. And there is a point where you can, with a button press, look at what the original graphics are and go, oh, we thought that looked good back then. Whoops.
And I think that's what that gimmick is for in a lot of these games. It's like, remember what this game used to look like? It's like, oh, I would like to forget now.
So
why would you do this to me?
So there was always that, but it functionally plays the same, which is fine because Halo plays fine anyway. As far as shooters on consoles go, especially, but just the shooter aspect, it did do a great job with that. So why change what works? But the one that actually did take the modern technology and applied it back to the original game that I remember from recent times was when Yakuza did the first two games as Kiwami and Kiwami 2. When they did that, they actually took the original game, they put it in the modern Dragon engine, and they changed the whole framework of it for the experience system and the changes that they did to the different fighting styles that you could do. They took it from the most recent game, but they applied it to the original games.
Yeah.
They applied it back to the original games, and you can tell pretty easily how much of an improvement that ends up becoming, because it plays so much better and it looks so much better. Like, they actually took their modern technology, they applied it to the original games. That is basically like what we're talking about we hope they would do with Diablo 2. But they actually did it with Kiwami and Kiwami 2. So, and then, hey, good news, you can also still play slot car racing with the... because Yakuza craziest series.
So on the flip side of a recommended game, a game that we both do like, and I think you've played this one too, is Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning.
Yes.
And you and I were both fans of the original game when it came out, but we also had agreed, and the community at large agreed, that one of the biggest issues with that game was the camera.
The camera was tricky. Yeah.
And the camera was tied so closely to your character in third person over the shoulder view that it wasn't good, because the art direction in this game was phenomenal. It's beautiful. You don't get Seth MacFarlane on your fucking game to make it look that good and then screw over the camera that badly.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things Re-Reckoning did, aside from having the Fatesworn DLC that they also added as well, is they did a lot of fixing to it for a lot of combat things. They tweaked it, they balanced it a bit better, I think. But they also gave you the FOV slider, which was missing from the original game. And I played that. I haven't finished it. I played it about as much as I played the original one, which is like, I'm playing it. I'm now bored. But that's me as a gamer.
Right.
So with that FOV slider, you can be like, all right, here's your original position, and here's your camera. Oh, wait, here's your camera. Look at all that view you've got. Look at the skybox you can see.
Oh, yeah. I remember you said, hey, Nathan, do you remember this owl that was on that tree? And I was
and you're like,
no, you could never see the owl.
Yeah, you couldn't turn the camera up to see it because it was tied too tightly.
Right.
So, as a remaster, I think that one did a good job, because they not only they took the graphics, made them better, upscaled it to current graphics generation, which is nice. It looks smoother. But they also bounced and tweaked it and gave you a couple more features that the original game doesn't have.
Right.
Which I think is a quality of life improvement that remasters should strive for.
Oh, yeah.
If you're gonna try and sell people on a game for nostalgia, that's one thing. But if you're gonna say it's remastered and better now, but it still plays the same and functions exactly the same, it's like I still have StarCraft 1 on CD somewhere. Why do I need a remaster?
Exactly. I mean, they need to do that so they can get your money.
Yeah, they want the money.
They want the money.
Just throw my money at you.
Exactly. Also, not Seth MacFarlane, Todd McFarlane.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of the guy who made Family Guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong guy.
I was like, Seth
Different
MacFarlane.
art style entirely.
Yeah, that, and trust me, the games he worked on, very different.
I think we need someone to mod Kingdoms of Amalur.
So that it looks like
with the art
Guy.
style of Seth MacFarlane, so it's Family Guy art style.
Yeah, exactly. We need Kingdoms of Giggity. What we
No.
we need to call this something. I don't know what. I'm kind of scared. Kingdoms of American Dad. Something Dark Side Amalur.
There you go.
That sounds fine. But one of the ones that actually jumps out at me in terms of remakes that I was very impressed by, having not actually played the original series, but I finally got the chance to do it with the remakes, and I got to look at the original titles, was when they did Spyro.
Yeah.
That was very impressive. They did the Spyro trilogy, and they completely changed that over. And when you start to look at what the original game looked like, the poly graphics that they had, and the brand new character models and everything, and also that they did really try to improve the gameplay and make it more user friendly and make it feel better in your hands. They did such an excellent job, and then packaging it as all 3 games, because each one of them probably is only about 10 hours each, so you get like this 30-hour long experience that feels much richer and also cohesive, because now they all look the same too through all 3 of the games, and they I know they did it with Crash Bandicoot too, but I wanted to throw my controller at the Crash Bandicoot. But with the Spyro, I mean, being able to look the same, sound the same for all of them, just made the 3 of them feel like a much more cohesive package in general, but also it looked better, it played better, and seeing it in the way they did those 3D graphics and made it look so nice, it reminded you like of the golden age of platformers.
Right.
And when I played it, I started thinking to myself, like, they just don't make games like this anymore.
They don't. Platformers died.
Platformers unfortunately died, and even if they made them, they would try to sell you the microtransaction to make it fun after the fact. Yeah. They didn't have to do it with that, and so I was very, very impressed with the work that they did on Spyro, at least as far as remakes go. How about reboots, though? Have you experienced any of those that you really liked? The franchise
again, not as much. DMC and Mike Rise about the only reboot title I think I've really played that I can think of offhand.
Sure. And that didn't really work so well for you.
No, I loved DMC Devil May Cry.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed that. It felt great to play because it was the same visceral combat system that you love in if you like DMC games, it was the same visceral combat system you love in those. The story was just as sarcastic and well done. And quirky and just silly in places as per tongue-in-cheek humor that Devil May Cry has always had.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's got an edgy Dante, which is always Dante. So, I mean, no, I really did enjoy it. And I think it's spiritually should be the first in the series.
Yeah, okay.
Despite what anyone thinks.
Sure. I think I actually have a few of them, if I can remember what they all are. I would say real briefly, because I talked about Deus Ex, they eventually did essentially do a reboot with Human Revolution.
Yeah.
And I did like what they did with Human Revolution. They did a very good job, and that was more of an origin story that takes place before the original games.
I mean, I do have Assassin's Creed Origins, but I didn't play any other Assassin's Creeds, really, so...
Yeah, yeah.
I can't compare it, but I do, I think it's good, you know?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Just looking through my game list right now.
Yeah, to see what else is in there. And it's like,
Yeah.
I know that there were a few others that I was going to touch on. The one that I was going to mention was in similar... I mentioned it before, but when they did the Survivor series for Lara Croft, and they took it back to the origin story for her, Crystal Dynamics did those games.
Oh, yeah.
Did that trilogy, and they did a very good job with them. Yeah.
On Crystal Dynamics as well, though, who is owned by Square Enix, I believe.
Yes.
I'm thinking they might be doing something with the Soul Reaver and Legacy of Kain games, potentially.
Oh,
maybe.
Really? Okay.
Because Legacy of Kain Defiance is on Steam, right?
Yeah.
But they took it off the Steam store. I think it's back on. They did something to it.
Okay.
Did they update it? They might have. At one point, they had taken it off the store, I think, because it was super not optimized to play on PC.
Fair.
But I'm hoping they do a remaster of those games. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Or just something.
Yeah. I was very happy when they rebooted the Hitman franchise as well. The newer Hitman and Hitman 2, where they did more of the open world versions of those missions where you could complete them in any way, and it actually functionally worked a lot better than the old games where I would just get found out immediately no matter what I tried because it was so random.
Yeah.
I thought that the layout of those was a big improvement I was really glad they rebooted that. But the one that I do really want to recommend, if anyone has not played it, I would say, is when they did Prey.
Yeah.
The original Prey was a pretty straightforward shooter that had a few little twisty elements to it. I would have really liked to see what they were doing with Prey 2 that turned into Vaporware, the idea of doing like a alien bounty hunter thing that sounded really cool. But when they decided to just do a straight-up reboot, renamed it Prey, and they set it on that station, and you had to deal with the Typhon, the way that they presented that whole thing was a little bit horror, a little bit sci-fi, a little bit stealth, and just had some really great elements to it that you really didn't see anywhere else. And so, in a lot of ways, they kind of just took the name and a few of the elements from the original, but they completely changed how it played and what it looked like. And that was Arcane Studios, and they have a very good track record. I was very happy with what they did there. So, some good examples out there, but you could probably find a lot more that were bad.
Yeah, a few bad examples too. Like, I don't know much about what happened with Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Yeah, not gonna think about it.
Apparently lots of not happiness from everybody is what I remember from it, so...
Yeah, something too about the people who had the game originally, and it got upgraded and somehow became worse than the original.
Yeah, I remember it being like, this is even worse.
Yeah, it's... Sometimes it backfires and it throws up in your face, and yeah... I think you could probably also put Duke Nukem Forever in that category, because I think they were trying to, like...
I don't want to even put that in a category, I just want to put it in the trash.
Yeah, I think everybody else did. You might as well just do that, too. But no, there are some good ones out there. If you happen to have any recommendations for reboots, remasters, remakes, please... shoot us a message. You can send us a voice message over on Anchor, or shoot us a text. Do all of those things. You have ways
those
of
voice messages would be fun, because if you have comments about one of those games or something you want to say and not just type, and have it come and be featured in a future episode, we can do that.
Yeah, I think we have the ability to do those. Pretty sure.
Someone here does. It's not me.
Yeah, someone has the technology. I wish I knew who it was. Maybe it's one of us.
Maybe.
Any other reboots that you wanted to mention before we move on to our third subject, or?
Nah.
I think we've talked that pretty much to death, but
We delved deeper into that one.
we did delve deeper. That's what that one's gonna be called. We're gonna go with that. Okay, so in line with what we've been talking about, we've been talking a lot about video games, but
Big butt.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like the big butts, and I cannot lie. The thing about it is, there is a version of this that you can apply to tabletop RPGs, and that is Editions. And since you are the expert when it comes to tabletop gaming, maybe you can give people a little bit of a definition of what Editions are.
I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I mean...
Comparatively
I
to
can
me.
pretend.
Yeah.
So, different editions for tabletop RPGs. If you've been following us for a while now, you know we enjoy our tabletop games a bit, or talking about them, even if we've never played them.
Right, exactly.
In some cases. But you're probably also familiar with different editions of tabletop RPGs. So, D&D is currently in its 5th edition. And so, for Nathan, my not as ignorant as he used to be co-host here, the different editions of RPGs tend to just be new iterations of rules, upgrades to the mechanics systems. They take kind of what works and improve upon it, or keep what works and improve on things that didn't work so well, or they want to change because it was complained about or unbalanced. So a lot of that with editions is a lot of rules upgrades for games.
Sure.
In some cases as well, they will upgrade the settings. I don't feel like that's as important to editions typically, because it's kind of like, for D&D, it's kind of generic world setting most of the time. I think 5th E takes place primarily in the core rulebooks in the Forgotten Realms.
Sure.
And sure, they'll add more lore to that too, but generally the 5th edition is different from 4th edition because of rules and mechanics, how you play, and how all the things kind of function. A lot of the cases when an RPG system will make a new edition, it is to streamline.
Right. And I think that's really important to explain, especially for novices or people that have not been very familiar with tabletop gaming, because if you pick up like a copy of like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and you have another one that's like 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, there's a lot of people who are not familiar with this that might think, they're pretty much the same. No, they do not. You can't intermingle. Like, if you think you're gonna pick up like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I could use like a campaign from 4 and it's gonna work. No, it really won't. The rules are completely different. It's like a whole new game, even though it still has Dungeons and Dragons on it. And they've gone through, if I remember correctly, even though we're on edition 5, there's technically like 6, right? Because we had like 3.5, 3 and then 3.5, or
3.5 wasn't its own edition.
Okay.
Per se, it was 3.0 came out, and then they went, we fucked up in a lot of places.
Yeah.
We're gonna fix a lot of things, and here's 3.5.
Got it. Okay. And a 3.5 was really used more than 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't think 3. I don't remember much of having just 3.
Right. My understanding of it, from what I know, is that they had 3, they realized that they needed to make adjustments, they got to 3.5 fairly quick, and then it pretty much was 3.5 was the addition for a really long time before 4 came out.
Yeah, that was up until 4 came out.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's how edition numbers work.
Right, but there was a long period of time between 3.5 and 4, right? I thought there was like...
I don't know how many years.
Okay.
Probably, yeah, at least.
Mm.
And of course, then from 3.5, it spawned people who loved the 3.5 rule set but didn't like 4th edition spawned Pathfinder.
Right, exactly. And that was the open game license.
Gaming license,
Yeah.
3.5 SRD rules.
Sure. Here's a timeline. I have a brief timeline.
Oh, good.
So original Dungeons & Dragons would have been 1974. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons was in 77. Let's see, second edition of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons was in 89. Third edition was in 2000, and then 3.5 was in 2003. 2008, you had fourth edition. So
3.5 was about a 5-year, 6-year cycle, almost.
Yeah, from third edition all the way to fourth, you had like 8 years, but 3 years in, they got the updated 3.5. So
Okay.
yeah, and then fifth edition comes in 2014. So actually, fourth edition stuck around for a little while, but
Wow. So 6th edition should be soon then, judging by their cycles.
yeah, but you know, I'm gonna guess that it's probably gonna be a little while, because people seem pretty happy with 5, so they might not want to do much with it.
Yeah, and they keep bumping out content for 5, so I'll
It's
give it
probably a while.
another couple of years.
Another couple years. There's also a possibility you might end up with just a 5.5. They might just do an update
Yeah.
of the rule set because they don't want to change all the books around yet. I'm actually really surprised with the length of time that, like, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons stuck around.
Up until 3rd in 2000.
Yeah, from 77 to 2000, basically. They had the second edition that they did in that time frame, but I don't think that the rule set changed dramatically between that. I think they were still working on THACO for all that time.
Now, I would like you to pull up a timeline of editions for Warhammer 40k
Okay, I can do that.
for me, really quick.
Editions of Warhammer of 40k. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Okay, here we go. Let me see here.
Let's look at this timeline.
Yeah, let's look at this timeline. Okay, your first edition was done in 18. 18. I'll tell you about a magical place called Warhammer from 1855. No,
Imagine if they had figured out any of that stuff in that long ago. I'd been like, what?
I know, 40,000 years ago. That's why they call it that. No, the first edition was in 1987. Okay.
Same year I was born.
Yeah, that was the first edition of Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. Was published in 87. Okay, so let's see. Second edition is 93. Third is in 98. Fourth, 2004. Fifth is 2008. Sixth in 2012. Seventh in 2014. Eighth in 2017. Boy, they have some short cycles between these things.
They have really short cycles.
Yeah, 2017, and then 2020 was 9th.
Yeah.
9th edition.
I stopped playing, actually playing, I haven't played since 4th or 5th edition, 40k.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you see how many editions behind I would be if I started playing again?
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't take very long.
And not only that, for 40k, it's not just that's the general rulebook. That's
Sure.
the core rules. That's not including your codexes for your armies rulebooks.
Okay, great.
Which don't always match up with the same cycles.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're not on 9th edition Space Marine Codex. You're on, like, I don't know, probably 8th edition Codex or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot, because with them overhauling that, it's different than D&D, because D&D, you're not typically buying a whole ass army worth of miniatures that are based upon what your rulebook says you need to play the game.
Right.
But Warhammer, like, yeah, we change this around, change those points around. These guys, you can't have as many, or you need more of these. And then, like, oh yeah, there's all these rules for all these new models that we now sell.
Right. Exactly. It does make me kind of appreciate, like, when I believe Savage Worlds is one of those cases where you can. They didn't really change additions at any point. They just kind of kept adding on and modifying so that you never really ran out. Like, the old editions can still be utilized in the new settings because they didn't want to just completely overhaul the whole thing. But I can see the case for where you can't necessarily do that. Like, we wouldn't have wanted to stick with Thaco. No one wants that. You wouldn't want to keep going with it. So you'd have to do an overhaul to the armor class system, and there's really no way around that unless you just completely overhaul the system. Or could you?
Maybe. So here's the thing with tabletop, though, as opposed to video games. When you have a remaster for a video game, to play that remaster, you have to, buy that. Now, if you would like to play the game, say your edition of Deus Ex, the original version, you need to mod that to be able to play it. You need the hardware capabilities and the software capabilities to be able to line up so you can play that.
Sure.
So there's a case for the remasters in those cases, in that situation where it becomes better to play the remaster because you can actually play it, for instance.
Oh yeah.
With tabletop, if I want to play in 3.5 D&D, as long as I have the rule books or the rules for it, I can still play in 3.5.
Yeah.
There becomes no technical limitation there.
Right.
If I want to play with Thaco.
Okay.
I mean, if I wanted to, I could. If I want to be an elf as a class, I can. If I want to play
class, yeah.
If I want to play 4th edition Warhammer 40k, I can't. Like, I'd have to find people that would like to play that edition of that game with me and have the right stuff for that era of the game. But as long as you have the materials for it, you still can.
Right. Could I be an elf clown?
I don't think clown was a class in Advanced D&D, Nathan.
No.
It's just a personality trait.
There was a point where I think clown was supposed to be a class. I can't remember.
I feel like you don't want to look this up because you're gonna get some weird ass homebrew.
I'm gonna get no. I think there was a whole article I once read. Maybe we can eventually do a segment on it about the weirdest classes that they had in D&D throughout its history. There's but I believe that if I go to the very end, there are clowns. I'll tell you if I find it. But I will say that your point is well taken, though, because if you have video games, there are technical limitations that are going to make the game not nearly as good unless you get modern hardware and modern technology. But with a tabletop game, you're still using the basic hardware, no matter how much they update the rule sets. They just learn from mistakes of the past or realize that they don't like doing things a certain way or want to streamline it.
Or they make mistakes and make 4th edition D&D.
Or they do that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so maybe not clown. I swear clown was a thing. Jester. There we go. It's a bard class.
Ah, of course it is.
Jesters. Yeah. There are some odd ones that they've had over the years and probably continue to still have. There's a master thrower. Go figure. You're good at throwing things. It's apparently a thing. So maybe some things don't age as well as others. Street Fighter. Oh, I like that game. It'd be fun. You could have a whole You could have a whole party of just Street Fighters, and you could pretend that you're in Double Dragon or something.
You just do Fight Club, and you just don't talk the entire time because no one's talking about Fight Club.
D&D Fight Club. Let's make that happen.
No.
I think we don't talk about D&D Fight Club.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh. Roll for Brad Pitt.
No thanks.
Roll for Brad Pitt, no thanks. Congratulations, we achieved this. If you could, either with Warhammer.
Too many war games.
Some kind of war thing. If we were talking about some of the current editions that are out there that you're familiar with, what's the kind of thing that you would like to overhaul if we ever got a new edition? Like if we ever got that magical 6th edition of D&D.
Oh man, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know for war games, I'd like to overhaul the turn systems, typically, because they slog.
Yep.
Like it's just you take your whole turn and move all 500 of your units, please. I'll be over here sitting there for an hour while you do this.
Yeah, I would think that you could maybe have you move one of the units, I move one of the units system. That might make more sense.
Yeah, that's when I was redesigning, or when I was working on the one I was working on. That's kind of what I wanted to do. It's I wanted it to be I move a unit, you move a unit, I move a unit, and you move down the line from like left to right or right to left. You know, you do it in order from one side of the table to the other. So it's I move, you move, I move, you move, back and forth until everyone's moved. Everyone who wants to move moves.
Right. Got it.
Because then it saves time, and then the whole combat thing, turn-based combat in a game like that, in Warhammer, for instance, means that, hey, if you shoot first, because you take the first turn, the enemy is losing a ton of units before they have a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
that's not how war works. Sorry.
Right. And I know that like you had homebrewed a few different rules when it came to combat in even D&D to try and make it a little bit more dynamic than the way it's usually made.
Yeah.
So I mean I could kind of see. I think the big thing that you had for that was the idea that if somebody takes their turn, the enemy doesn't necessarily have any way of counteracting that because they're dead before they do anything.
Yeah. So that was the typically, I haven't done this because I haven't played in a couple years now, but my thing was that if initiative order, everything happens in a 6-second cycle, so everyone gets their turn and then damage is accumulated. Essentially, you still take your damage on your turn if you get dealt damage, but the effects of that are then at the end of that round of combat. So if you get knocked out before your initiative order, technically, like, oh yeah, you're at -1 hit points, cool, I'm out. It's like, cool, you still get your round of combat because you're up while this is happening. You know, it's kind of silly to be like, oh yeah, you just get knocked out before you get a chance to do anything in combat. In the option of a surprise round, I think that's fine. For instance, if you're surprising the enemy, jumping on them, they don't get a chance to react. You get a round of combat before they get a chance to react. So if you knock them out or kill them before they can react, that is fine.
Sure.
But if it's a typical melee or combat and you are all acting at the same point in time, it's you're swinging a sword at the same time someone else is swinging a sword. Someone's casting a spell at the same time you're not casting a spell, whatever, you know?
Right. And in a lot of ways, that kind of makes it the same basic rule set as if you were playing like Magic the Gathering. Because when you attack and somebody blocks, they deal damage to you at the same time that you deal damage to them, unless somebody has first strike or something to that effect. So,
yeah. And the only other thing in like D&D I would love to see overhauled eventually, maybe if it's possible, is just the spells per day bullshit.
Okay.
And I know in a lot of cases, the short rest thing now, you can get a lot of spells back from a lot of different classes. So you don't just lose all your versatility if you cast all your spells in one combat.
Sure.
You can be like, alright, we need to rest for 30 minutes instead of resting for 8 hours.
Right. I mean, that's why I like playing a monk, because literally a short rest, you just get all your key points back. Pretty much. I would imagine that is...
Dragons.
Yes, we would imagine dragons. There be dragons in Dungeons and Dragons. But I would imagine that seems like, especially with the integrated nature of the worlds of like a D&D and a Magic the Gathering, I would hope that they might be able to figure out how to utilize some of the mechanics from one in order to, enhance the other one.
Who knows?
Yeah, with the way Wizards of the Coast is, just because they've introduced Ravnica and so many other things from Magic into D&D, maybe some of the mechanics could also just switch over, because they weren't bad mechanics in that game. So yeah, you maybe take the card game and apply some of the stuff to the RPG, or vice versa. Maybe. But okay, so we're basically at this point we're pretty much just brainstorming what version 6 is going to be of D&D.
I have no idea what they would do, so
yeah,
who knows?
I mean, we don't know. We're just speculating, and badly at that. Great. What did my thingy do?
I don't know what your thingy did, Nathan.
Maybe we shouldn't.
Is it time for the outro?
I think it's time for the outro.
All right.
I think it's outro time. All right. So this has been yet another episode of Total Pebble Knockdown, Edition 3.
Edition 3.
Third edition. Yeah. This is.
Just wait for 3.5 coming in 2 to 3 weeks, years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, a few years we're gonna come out with version 3.5. We're episode 35.
This is a great bookend though, because now we've got this cat back in frame.
Oh yeah?
At the end of the episode.
We got the cat. The cat has returned. Return of the cat.
Return of the cat.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be a cat until it's time to do cat things. So, Alex, I imagine that we exist on the internet somewhere besides where they're listening to us, but I don't remember where.
We exist all over the internet. We're on the Twitter, we're on the YouTube, we're on, Anchor, we're on TotalPebbleKnockdown.com.
We're on Brainjack. We've beamed directly into your head. That's pretty great. That's coming soon. Technology hasn't been quite invented yet, but you can find all kinds of information over on our website. You can also check out our Patreon. We have like the full videos for you over there that release ahead of the normal podcast schedule, as well as some of the additional content that we don't necessarily put into the episodes, because as you can imagine, we go off topic a bit.
Do we?
On this episode? No, I think we got a tight hour and a half.
Yeah, it's a tight hour and a half we got right here, except for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think we got like a tight we got a tight 70 or 80 minutes. I think we're good. We're good. But in case you ever wanted to see the ones where we go long and talk about other things, we have that over there on the Patreon as well.
And our current goals on Patreon actually are community driven for the number of patrons versus the dollar amount we're getting.
Exactly. So, if you even want to just contribute at the lowest dollar amount, that's okay, because that just goes toward our goal in as much as you were giving more than that. So, everybody's contributing whatever they want, and it still means that you're contributing equally to our goals. And those goals are to do more things and stuff. We do goals and do stuff. Make sure to check us out over there. You can also contact us by email, or as we said earlier in the episode, you can leave voice messages on Anchor if you're using that for podcasts as well. We're also on other podcast apps if you don't use that, but you should probably use Anchor because it's actually very good. And in addition to that, you can find us on many different social media platforms. I am actually at Citanium.
I'm at EXP Limited, and our show is at Pebble Knockdown. If you are already following Dell Podcasts on Twitter, we swapped that over, so you're still following us at Pebble Knockdown.
Yes. We did the old switcheroo.
Yeah, we did a whole switcheroo.
Right.
But if you liked this podcast, this video, this episode, whichever content you're using to listen to or watch us, we would love if you could share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it. We're not going to ask you to like or subscribe or any of that bullshit, like give us a rating, because whatever. I don't think Apple ratings really fucking matter at this point. We would rather have, if you think someone would enjoy this, share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. That'll get us hopefully another person to listen to and enjoy our content and join the community and interact with us. And honestly, I think that's our biggest goal for the new podcast, the new site and everything, and all that is to just to better interact with everyone in the community and just kind of enjoy ourselves and have you guys enjoy stuff and just produce content that people enjoy.
I want to be able to just expand the community out and also to be able to get better conversations going with everybody on our Discord and, just in the community, and then be able to actually talk about some of that stuff on the show so that we can actually react to what people are doing. That's
Imagine that.
Yeah, that's some of the most fun that we've had on the show when we did the last one, and I think it's going to be the most enjoyable part of this one as well.
Yeah, and that's why the Patreon goals are now the community-driven ones, because if we get the patrons, it's like, well, we can give back to them. So I think we're still working on some of the, what the tiers get for Patreon rewards, which is, merch discount, because honestly, if you're giving us any money, you should get a discount on merch if you want it. I think one of the first bigger goals is to have new merch design and new sticker designs. I think we're probably going to give away stickers to all our patrons for free, just because...
Hoping, yeah.
Stickers are free anyways. I mean, I'll probably just be like, who wants stickers? Sending stickers off to people.
We should just ask people on one of our platforms who likes stickers or would prefer to get to... Yeah, we should do a poll. Who wants stickers and who hates stickers?
Yeah,
Let's just a poll and see what happens. I wish that would be great. That would be great if we could do a poll with graphics and we could put up 3 different stickers and say which ones do you like, A, B, or C. And no, seriously, we'll probably send some people to A, B, or C. Just figure out which one you like.
You know what we do need for the YouTube videos is an end card.
Oh yeah, we do need.
I'll have to figure that out at some point. In the future, end card here.
Right. What I have right now for the individual videos is there's a recommended video, and then there's the subscribe button, which is our symbol anyway. So it goes over where the little microphone is.
There you go.
So and then the recommended video just goes in the middle of the screen, between us, and so it's kind of up and down.
Well, what we can do maybe in the future is we can get one that has all the patrons on it as well. Be thanks to our awesome patrons, you're listed on the screen kind of deal. A lot of people do that, so that'd be really cool for the YouTube video. But we should thank our patrons because we have a couple awesome ones and supporters.
Oh, sure, we do. We have, obviously we have Bonnie Ainsworth, been with us for a while now. We also have Datum and Seagoat 777. I have to ask him at some point why 777. Were there
666 is a number in the Mark of the Beast. Duh.
Or alternately, there were 776 previous sea goats.
Oh, yeah, that's probably more accurate. We also, I believe, have Cannibal Halfling Gaming.
Believe so.
That's still a patron.
Yes.
Who, if you're listening, we would love to hear from you. How you been? Been a while. Hi.
Hope you're doing well. I'm hoping you're listening to the new episodes and enjoying them. We're hoping. Yes, thank you to all of you. Thank you to the people that are boosting the server. Seagoat, you're over there as well. And yeah, we're getting a lot of early support for the show. We're really happy about that. Thank you for the folks that are checking out our merchandise already. We're really we're happy about that.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to say. Really fast. Like this. And so, with that, we are going to end the reboot of the show we used to do.
Yes. We're a rebrand of the old show, not a reboot.
We're a rebrand. Also a reboot and a remaster.
Yes.
I think that's accurate, right? Because we rebooted it because it's a completely different thing we're doing, but kind of starting from scratch. And it's also a remaster because we're now in video. You can actually see us now. Sorry about that.
Thanks for that autofocus. The nightmare.
The autofocus nightmare. If you put your hands up like this, the video hates it. Oh, no, it's fine. Okay.
I also hate it.
Yeah, don't you? Well, anyway, everybody, we still don't know how to do. Can we start doing sing the theme song at the end of the?
We'll just have a dance party, so we're just gonna get some effects that look like rave lights.
This is the best I can work on. Total Pebble Knockdown. That's not how that goes.
Our outro will just be Seacrest out. You're stealing it.
Sea Goat out. Maybe that's why it's Sea Goat.
Yeah.
Seacrest was taken, and so Sea Goat in its place. This is going to be the worst edition. This is Turd Edition. Total Pebble Knockdown, Turd Edition. Thank you for joining us on the show. We will see you next week.
I personally this has been Total Pebble Knockdown. Then whatever.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
This has been Total Pebble Knockdown, Turd Edition. Bye, everybody.
Just fade to black.
Just fade to black.
Crying emojis.
Just crying emojis. Fade to black. The credits roll. Everybody's happy.
We'll just put cats at the end of the episode and just call it good.
Just meow 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 meow. That would be
not
great.
that cat.
No, we need more of those cats. Can you get your cats? I'll get my cats, and we'll have them meow into the thing, and then I can just auto-tune it all. It will be amazing.
I don't want this.
Too bad. It's happening now. You can't stop this. You can't stop the meow mix.
I can, by unplugging it.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.